Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Wall Street for Main Street podcast. My name is Mo Daoud, and today's special guest is Jerry Robertson. Jerry Robertson is an economist, author, international conference speaker, and editor of the financial website FTM Daily, followthemoney.com. He's also known as the author of the book Bankruptcy of Our Nation. So, Jerry, thank you for coming back on.
Mo, it's always great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So I want to start off this podcast by asking you to talk about your background. We've done that with other guests, so we want to start off this podcast by asking you as well, talking about your background, how you decided to become an investor and to start your business, follow the money.
Well, that's a great question. I grew up just the way everybody else did. I was in a single family or a single parent family, and my mother raised me, and we were pretty poor, no doubt about it. So I can identify with people, who are coming up and they don't have a lot of money. I've been there and I've done that, and over time, I began to realize that if I was going to break free financially, I had to start my own business. And so back in 1995, I started an appliance repair business, and I had guys running calls for me, and I was running calls, and that did pretty well, and over time I began getting into the stock market. By about 1997, I was taking some of my profits and I was beginning to invest in the stock market. I had a friend who was a trader, and he began showing me how he was making money. And of course, in the late 1990s, who couldn't, right? I mean, anybody could throw a dart and make money. So I was doing really well in the dot-com boom, and made quite a bit of money during that time and got real excited about it. Of course, the dot-com bubble caught me by surprise like everybody else. That wasn't fun. And then I guess after 9/11, September 2001, was when I really got serious. I really woke up that day, and I really began to study economics. Economics became the thing that I just gravitated towards. And over time, I began to understand Austrian economics. I discarded Keynesian economics. I quickly realized that was kind of filled with flaws, and then slowly began speaking around the country about starting your own business, about the dollar, about how the Federal Reserve was a fraud. This began back in the mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006. And then my book, Bankruptcy of Our Nation, came out in 2008. I could not get anybody to publish that book, Mo. It was filled, and you said you've read it, you've seen it, you've read it. It's filled with a lot of things that back in 2006, 2007, wasn't really being said that much. There were just a few people. I mean, there was Peter Schiff, he was out there. Gerald Celente was out there. There was just a few of us. And when I finally got published in 2008, everything changed. We began to speak at places all around the world, did TV interviews, radio interviews, and it was just really big. And from that time, I decided that instead of writing another book, I decided I wanted to start a podcast. And I really wanted to communicate with people more closely. And so we started a podcast. We started a website, Follow the Money Daily. And they can find it at just ftmdaily.com. We also bought followthemoney.com, so they can get there that way as well. And so now we have a podcast, and since then we've just developed all kinds of great services for our folks who visit. We really champion the idea of achieving financial security and financial freedom through multiple streams of income. And trading is certainly a great income stream. I love stock trading, options trading, currency trading. That's certainly one of the income streams, but that's what we teach now. We focus on teaching people how to create more income, how to become a better investor, and we have now a daily podcast and many different services on our website.
And what I noticed when talking to you and other guests is a lot of you guys come from a background with almost no money or low income or normal middle class people. So it tells you that people out there that don't have much money or they're just regular middle class, that they could do it if you guys could do it. It just takes find your passion and hard work and just dedication.
That's true. It really is true. And of course, not everybody's going to be an author or they're going to start a website and have a radio show. I mean, mine's kind of a niche, but at the same time, everybody has their own gift. Everybody has their own talent. Everybody has their own comparative advantage. And it's just trying to find that. Unfortunately, Mo, the society that we're in today just programs everybody, and everybody's brainwashed to believe that you have to go to school, then you have to go to college, then you have to get a good job, and then you got to work your way up that job. And the truth is that, that's how the majority of people live today, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you really want to get ahead, it's a really hard way to do it. I mean, it's really one of the hardest ways to do it. The easier way, when I say easy, please put, big asterisk next to that and don't take it seriously. Easy is not the word, but I would say a more accessible way for people to achieve wealth today besides a job is by starting their own business. And it doesn't have to be like a major corporation where they have all these employees. It's so easy now to start a business online, a referral business where you connect with a local company in your area and just provide marketing support for them and then take a cut. Or you can certainly get involved in real estate without any money doing wholesaling. And it can't really do much in trading without money. You need to have some money. But the thing is that everybody either has time or they have money. Everybody has one or the other. Some people have both, and those people are very blessed. But some people will tell you that they don't have either, and that's not true. If that's the case, they have their priorities misplaced. So you either have time or you have money. If you have money, you can make money. And if you have time, you can make money. But whenever you begin to use your time, you've got to make sure that you use it very wisely. Bill Gates has the same amount of time that you and I do, but somehow he makes a lot more money every single minute. And the reason is because he found his comparative advantage and he focused in on it. He found people's pain points and he solved them. And people who want to succeed today in their own business, they just have to find those pain points. They have to find out what causes people pain and then bring a solution to that. Create a valuable solution to people's pain. One real quick example, and this is this is a low end example, something very low barriers to entry is mowing a lawn. I mean, I realize that's not a glamorous job, but that's an example of somebody's pain point. On Saturday morning, I don't want to get up and go out and mow my lawn, right? That's a pain point. So I'm willing to pay somebody to take away that pain. It's the same way with my vehicle, or if I wake up in the morning and my refrigerator's not working, that's a pain point. But it's also a point of ignorance because maybe I don't know how to fix my fridge. And so that's why doctors and lawyers and specialists make so much money, is because of our ignorance. We don't know, and it's because we never went to school to learn those things. So certainly finding people's pain points or the points that they don't know about, and then specializing in those areas can be a very good way for somebody who has a job to start their own company and begin starting moonlighting at first. We have a lot of people who come to our website, Mo, who are looking for just another income stream. They're just looking for one more income stream. They have their full-time job, and maybe that's all they have, and they want to get another income stream. And we have about 22 different income streams that we list on our website in our Income University, and they're also listed in the book, Bankruptcy of Our Nation. And it just shows people that there are so many different ways to make money. And it really depends upon your own personality and your own temperament, which one you would choose.
And you make a great point there. For people out there, they just got to find their passion, and if you're good at it and there's a demand for it, to create your own business and go out there and execute and try to make money rather than go to college and get into deep in debt, because every year tuition is going up thanks to the government. They guarantee almost all the student loans, and they're pushing everybody to go back to school and get their master's or their PhD, even though, I don't think it's worth it because the economy is so bad, and, having another paper degree doesn't really make much of a difference right now. But going back to talking about your story, and you said after the .com bubble and then the 9/11 happened, you stopped and you took a look at why this happened. What made you to decide to stop and examine what happened in the market and the economy and society after 9/11 rather than sooner?
Well, I guess I was just asleep. I was just living in a bubble. I think, like most Americans, I didn't fully comprehend. And of course, I was fairly young too. And when I look back at those days, I realized that the moment that 9/11 happened, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I suddenly realized that the world was much bigger and that our problems that we were facing were much larger. And so I began to investigate those problems. So I guess I didn't really know what I was getting myself into whenever I began the research. I ran across books, people like G. Edward Griffin, of course, and then later on Peter Schiff. And I began to run across these Austrian economists as well, Hayek and things like that. And I think that was the moment where I began to connect the dots. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know, couldn't put my finger on it. So that's really what happened with that. And it led me to Austrian economics. It's so funny because today, everything that we're doing, as you well know, and I'm sure you point out consistently on your website, but everything we're doing today is just the wrong medicine. And we continue to apply the wrong medicine to this disease that we have. And we're not getting any better, unfortunately. And you know what, Mo? Let me go back just real quickly to what you were saying before, what we were saying before in the previous question, because you had mentioned about following your passion. And I just wanted to follow up on that because that's actually somewhat of a misnomer. And I've discovered that. I believed that, too, for a long time, that if you would just follow your passion, you would make money. And you hear that all the time. People say that. But, again, I want to go back to that pain point. And I think one of the reasons why so many businesses fail is because the individual who is getting started is trying to do something that they like instead of trying to do something that people feel pain in. I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman who came out to my house the other day. I had a problem with plumbing, and a guy came out. He was a plumber, and I was expecting to see like a 50 or 60-year-old plumber, And this guy was young. He was probably 25, 30. And I asked him, I said, what possessed you to want to become a plumber? And he said, well, he was going to college, and he got out and got a job and then got laid off, and he couldn't find another job in his field, and he began to study and find out that plumbing and refrigeration and a lot of these different key fields were completely undermanned for the next several years. And so he studied to become a plumber, and now he's making extremely good money, and he has great job security. He can go anywhere in the country now and be a plumber. He didn't want to be a plumber. It wasn't his first goal, but you know what? It pays the bills. And if he can take that money and then invest it, eventually he can get to a place where he can pursue his passion. So pursuing the passion, I think, is a reward after you help people with their pain. You have to find out what hurts people, what brings them pain. You provide a valuable tool, a resource for them to help them. You collect money off of that, and then later on, once you've accrued enough money, then you can begin to pursue your passions. But there's so many people today trying to start a business that if you don't really focus in and do your market research, you're much higher. Huge possibility of failing if you do that. So.
And that's great advice for any young adult or people that just graduated from college, whether 2013 or the class of 2014. But because there's a statistic out there that 80% of the college graduates from 2014 cannot find a full-time job, 80%. So that tells you how bad the economy is. And it's not the end of the world if you can't find a job. Start your own job, find what people need in your community, and provide it.
That's so true. Yeah, there's like over 92 million Americans now over the age of 16 who do not work and have not looked for work for more than 4 weeks, and that was according to the June report that was put out by the U.S. government. So, yeah, there's a massive unemployment crisis. And then if you look at what happened last week, the job numbers came out and the market popped, and it's like a big fairy tale. It's like a big fantasy or a big illusion of prosperity. This whole thing is going to crash something fierce. Unfortunately, and that's another reason why it's so vital to develop, multiple streams of income to insulate yourself. Because if you lose your job today, just think about it. Those of you who are listening, if you were to lose your job today, A, how much money do you have in the bank to pay your bills until you find that next job? And B, how long will it take you to find that next job? So that's why, digging in your heels now and creating those multiple streams of income is one of the smartest things you can do.
And yeah, and there's also another statistic out there that I think 70 or 75% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. That's not very good.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, and to solve that, Mo, we created something called our 5 levels of financial freedom. My wife and I, and my wife, by the way, helps with the radio show. She co-hosts the show with me. Her name is Jennifer, and together we created something called the 5 levels of financial freedom. It's something that we actually went through ourselves, and it's completely free. People can hop onto our website, ftmdaily.com/5 levels. I think you can spell it out or just use the number 5 levels. And that'll take you through many, many, many pages of great financial advice, step by step, line upon line, teaching people how to create financial freedom. It's exactly the same thing that Jennifer and I use to create financial freedom, and we want to share it with your folks and with anybody who wants to read it. But it's on our website. But it's absolutely imperative that people have a plan. It seems that so many people today, Mo, are very cognizant of the problems. They're very aware that Washington is a wreck. They're aware that we have a national debt, but they don't do anything. They're not. They're not going out and taking the bull by the horn, so to speak. They're not going out there and really taking advantage of what they see. And so, knowledge is one thing, but wisdom is what we want. It's applied knowledge. We want to apply our knowledge, and that's how we'll succeed.
And that's a great point. People can check out the 5 levels at your website, as you mentioned before. Now, let's talk about one of the main level that you have is people should have income coming from somewhere else, such as fixed income. So I wanted to ask you, are you finding it difficult to find fixed income now that the real inflation rate is in some country double digit?
Yeah, are you talking about, you say fixed income?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's kind of ironic. We did have some hard times finding some good fixed income. I mean, obviously, we were relying upon dividend-paying stocks. That's really worked out well over the last several years. But lately, one of the things that has been really good to me is peer-to-peer lending. I don't know if people are familiar with that. I'm sure some of your audience is. You can go to prosper.com or lendingclub.com, and it's basically you get to be the bank. Instead of people going to the bank to borrow money to fix up their house or consolidate their credit cards or whatever the case might be, you can become the lender. And these companies will actually work as intermediaries. They work just like a bank. They make sure that everything, they do an application for the borrower. They make sure that they have good credit, and then you can put money into one of those loans and receive a very handsome, fixed return. A lot of the big Wall Street players are moving in on this. Microsoft has moved in pretty heavily into this space now, and a lot of the hedge funds are finding it lucrative because. And even insurance companies for a long time have relied upon commercial real estate to provide their returns, and insurance companies are just hurting right now looking for return, and for yield. But yeah, I do like P2P lending is what they call it, peer-to-peer lending. In fact, we have some information on that on our website too. If they want to get information on that, we have a free webinar at ftmdaily.com/P2P. And you can learn all about how to, get involved with P2P lending. It's very simple, very, very easy.
And that's a great idea, because in the stock market, some of the dividend return on the blue chip company, they're better than what you get in a treasury bond, but I don't know if it's better than what it's going to beat the inflation rate in whatever country that you're in, especially like in Asia, in India, China, and South America, where inflation is double digit, and it's hard to find a decent return.
It is, yeah, it can be. And fortunately, here in the United States, our inflation rate is so low, according to the government. Of course, if you buy food or if you drive, you know that those are fudge numbers. But according to the United States government, our inflation is extremely low. But as we say, most people know that that's a joke, and that's why buying things like gold and silver to protect yourself against inflation is so vital. So vital.
Definitely, very vital. Now let's talk about gold and silver. Now, before the podcast, you told me that you also do technical analysis, which I didn't know. So let's look at the gold and silver chart, and I want to get your opinion on the charts and talk about your trading software that you also told me before the podcast as well.
Yeah. Well, we have subscribers. We have two different things. We have one thing where we send out a daily stock idea, based from our system, and that's one thing. Or people can actually buy our trading software, and they can actually use it and identify buy and sell signals on every stock and ETF in the United States. And what we were talking about was gold and silver, and how at the beginning of June we had sent out an email to our subscribers letting them know that gold and silver were setting up for a nice short-term buy signal. And it worked out real well. It worked out really well. But what's really interesting is what gold and silver are doing on the long-term side. Well, we're actually seeing gold do something that it hasn't done on the charts since 2001. This was when the big, 2000, when the big bull market began. We're actually seeing a reset on the charts and a move back to right where we were. And it looks like in the next, it's hard to say, as you well know from technical analysis, but it looks like within the next 4 to maybe 8 weeks, we're going to get a trigger, a buy signal on gold and silver, and it's going to be a long-term buy signal. So that would be time to back up the truck. And I have been waiting for this moment for some time, and that's going to be a great opportunity for those who missed that first leg up. We really believe a major second leg up is coming. And it's coming very, very quickly, actually. And people can see that from the fast pace now that gold and silver are starting to move higher in the near term. But we fully expect that, like I said, within the next 4, 8, maybe 12 weeks. I mean, it's hard to know with these charts, but if everything keeps going the way it's going, we're going to get a buy signal, a major buy signal on gold and silver here very shortly. And that'll be a long-term buy signal, meaning you would buy and you would hold for a long period, maybe a period of 5 or 6 years before it fully works itself out. So yeah, and that's one thing we love to do. I've been doing technical analysis and technical trading for about 15 years, but about 10 years ago, after I lost a lot of money, doing different things, I realized that I have to create a system. I've noticed that the best traders out there, they have a system. They use a system, and they use it religiously. And so about 10 years ago, I created a system. I've honed it, refined it for a long time. And about 2 years ago, I began putting it together for a software. And now, just this year, in fact, just a couple of months ago, it became available to the public. And it's called Trigger Trade Pro. And people can learn all about it on the website, Trigger Trade Pro. But it's a very cool software that allows you to see when the best time to buy is and when the best time to sell is using technical analysis. We use some proprietary indicators.
And you also mentioned gold and silver. It is due to go up. I mean, if you look at the demand and supply for that market, it's very strong. In China, last year, the demand in China exceeded the annual mining supply. So gold and silver as well is due to go up eventually. So maybe this summer we'll finally get a little more pop in that market.
Yeah, and I certainly don't like to make predictions because, it's kind of silly to try to time these markets. You just never know what's going to happen. I mean, even my weather guy can't tell me what's going to happen tomorrow, so I don't know why somebody could tell me what's going to happen tomorrow in the stock market. But what we do know is that you're right. You can look at supply and demand figures. You can look at basic economic, indicators and say, okay, looks like things are picking up, and we certainly see that with gold and silver. And the other thing we see with the stock market is the stock market's right back where it was on our charts, where it was back in 2007. And so we think we probably have a little bit more of a push here. No doubt we'll probably get a pullback before we really froth out at the top. But we think that top is unfortunately coming a lot quicker than many of us may realize. We are in very dangerous territory now. The only thing is that the Fed stands ready to reverse its decision. They're talking now that they're going to end QE3 in October, and so in November there will be no more bond purchases. But that's very difficult to see how they're going to pull that off, especially when you consider that Europe is now really becoming anti-dollar. We saw this with France the other day. The French foreign minister and the finance minister in France, and also the CEO of Total, one of the largest oil companies in Europe, asking the question publicly: why are we using dollars for all of our oil and all of our transactions, financial transactions? Of course, this has long been the problem with the Middle East and even with Asia and Russia. So to think that the Fed is somehow going to be able to wiggle its way out of its current predicament that's the height of optimism. I don't see how they're going to get out of this. And another thing to keep in mind too is Europe. I'm very bullish on Europe right now, and of course I've been bullish on Europe for a very long time, but the ECB has been very restrained in pumping money into its system. They have only relied upon interest rate changes, interest rate policies, and some other things as well, but they really haven't blasted the markets like the Bank of England has, or like the Bank of Japan has, or like we have. So they still have that in their back pocket. And European stocks, even though they're not as cheap as they once were, we think that Europe could continue higher for much longer than the United States could. So we are bullish on Europe. And we also keep track of currencies as well. We keep track of everything here, I guess. We keep track of ETFs. We keep track of currencies. We keep track of a lot of this stuff. And I tell you, one of the best currencies we've made money on has been the British pound. That thing has been soaring. And of course, the euro has been holding steady. But I tell you, the United States is just kind of made its bed. I think a lot of people are frustrated with it. When we take a look at what happened most recently, too, in Germany, when it was discovered that a double agent was working for the United States, for the CIA and the NSA, and there was a double agent, in Germany. Now that they found out there's two that are providing top secret information to Washington from Germany. This is just not good, and the German people already don't like us. 29% of the German people actually have a favorable view of America. Yeah. And so, you just look at this picture and you just try to fast forward it maybe 5 years. You take a look at the unemployment numbers here in America. You take a look at what's happening in our economy here and the stock market, how frothy it is. And then you look at our foreign policy and how dastardly it's become. You just fast forward 5 years and I don't see how anybody thinks that we're going to be in good shape 5 years from now, or better shape than we are now. I mean, I just can't see it at all.
And you made a great point, talking about the stock market, how it's about to crash. It's also as overvalued as it was back in 2007 with the forward PE ratio of around 15 last time I checked. So it's very overvalued, except maybe in the commodity sector where I think there's some value there. And then also you talk about other countries stop using the dollar. Well, I've noticed recently a lot of countries are going outside the petrodollar system or the dollar in general to make trade. So I'm seeing Germany using different currencies to make a trade deal with Russia and China, and India, Russia and Iran as well. So the trend we're seeing right now is that everybody's leaving the dollar and using other currencies. So you're right. I don't see how the Federal Reserve can stop QE because there's not going to be much demand for the dollar going forward, and they're the only one that can buy it.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. They're the lender of last resort. And if Washington wants to sell bonds and they want to pay for Social Security checks and they want to pay for all the other things that they have to pay for every single month, then somebody's going to have to loan them money. And unfortunately, all the countries that have been loaning the United States money, like China and Japan and Europe, all of these countries who are loaning us money, they're finding out that the United States is using that money to spy on them. And so at some point, these nations are going to wake up and say, now, why are we giving this country money if they're just taking it and using it to spy on us? Maybe what we need to do is starve the beast. Now, no one's interested in seeing a takedown of the United States except for maybe some rogue regimes, because they know that it will impact their economies too. It's going to be a bloody mess when the U.S. comes crashing down. But we don't think that that other countries are going to not be able to make it. There's kind of a misnomer or a myth that people think, well, if the U.S. goes, then the entire world economy is going to go down with it. Well, maybe temporarily, but we think that China and Europe really have played their hand well. They haven't been as crazy with their monetary stimulus as the United States has. There's no doubt there has been a lot of stuff going on in China. There is a lot of problems there. But overall, I would still make the case that, and I would suggest that China and Europe will be able to emerge from some sort of crash like that much better than we will. And, you know, the other thing, Mo, to keep in mind is that, as you said, there is really a strong decline in the view of the U.S. dollar, and that has still yet to take on any kind of teeth. Today, about 60% of all of the global currency reserves that are held in central banks are U.S. dollars. And until that changes, the U.S. is going to continue to get a pass. But once we actually see these central banks begin to drop the dollar, when we begin to see Europe begin to demand that euros be used, you know, just a classic example, Mo, in Europe, Airbus, which is a European airline company, they sell their airplanes to France and Germany in U.S. dollars. It doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, that other currencies can certainly be used. And if other countries begin to use their own currencies and they stop using the dollar, well, that's going to be a really, really bad thing for the U.S.
So before we let you go, I want to get your quick opinion of what you think about Bitcoin. Do you think that's a viable currency that's here to stay and it could be used for transaction in the future between big corporation and between two other countries?
You know, a good friend of mine named Trace Meyer, who I see you've had on your program
yes.
several times.
Yes.
But Trace Meyer told me back in 2010, 2011, sometime in there, to buy Bitcoin, and I was foolish enough to do it. I've seen Bitcoin go up. I don't hold very much of it, but I think that it's smart for the individual out there who doesn't have any Bitcoin at all, or if they've never bought it before. I think it's wise for a savvy investor to go out and go through the process of purchasing a Bitcoin. It's more difficult than you might think. It may take up to a week. You know, it took me a long time to be able to buy it because it's a laborious process. But I would encourage people to bite the bullet and just, you know, throw $25 into it and throw $100 into it, or maybe even just say, I'm going to buy one Bitcoin. I think they're selling for about $600, and then just hold on to it. You know, you never know what could happen. But if it does go up the way some of these people forecast, I know Trace Meyer has said that he can see it, you know, reaching $1 million per Bitcoin. You know, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but if it did, wouldn't you kick yourself for not buying it for $600? So why not just buy one, you know?
I kicked myself for not buying it in 2010, but you must have made a killing.
Well, there's another currency, and I hesitate to mention it because I know they're going through some problems right now, but it's the second largest by market cap, and it's a currency called Ripple, and I own some of that as well, and I was able to get in at that at about a penny. I think it's still around a penny, but it'll jump up and down. And Ripple is one of the really, really cheap ones, and they have a fascinating business plan if you go onto their website and discover about Ripple. But that's another currency that I certainly don't want to promote, but I own it, and I think that they offer a very interesting business plan. I think in the future, one of these currencies will win out. One of these currencies will truly emerge as the key player. It looks like it's probably going to be Bitcoin, but it's far too early to know. But investors today, I don't think that they should shy away from this. I don't think Bitcoin or the technology that it represents is some sort of fly-by-night technology. It is a massively disruptive technology that's here to stay. We just don't know which one's going to stay. We don't know which one's going to be used. So who knows what's going to happen in that market, but I think for people who want to be wise investors, who consider themselves savvy investors, you've just got to go through the process. You've just got to see how it works. It's really worth your time to educate yourself on it.
And I agree. I think Bitcoin is going to be compared to what Internet did to our society and to our economy as well. So I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general is here to stay, and it'll be a good alternative to the U.S. dollar as well.
Mo, I think you're right, and I think for those who are gold and silver investors, they should be encouraged, not discouraged by Bitcoin, because Bitcoin and the demand for it is the same demand that exists for gold in many ways, in the fact that Bitcoin was designed without a central bank. It was designed against the Fed. It was designed to be decentralized. And so people who are attracted to Bitcoin are the same kinds of people who would be attracted to gold and silver if they understood what it really represented. So the Bitcoin bubble, to me, if it ends up, bursting and becoming a big bloody mess, well, that's okay, because now what we have is what we've proven is we have more demand now for gold and silver. Those Bitcoin people, they'll run into gold and silver, and that that could certainly prop up that price. But I don't view Bitcoin or cryptocurrency investors negatively as some of the gold and silver investors seem to do, and I'm glad to hear you don't either, because again, we're all kind of on the same side. We realize the dollar's a fraud. We realize it's just a piece of paper. We just have different ways, perhaps, of investing around that idea.
Yeah, and I'm also competing currency, just like Ron Paul. So if people want to use Bitcoin or gold or silver or dollar, they should be free to use whatever currency they want, rather than have one currency that's only accessible in our economy and it's losing value every day.
Agreed.
So, Jerry, thank you for your time. And if people want to find out more about your work and your podcast and your book as well, where can they go? Can you give out your website one more time?
Yeah, they can just go to ftmdaily.com. That's followthemoneydaily.com, and they can find out all kinds of stuff there. Sign up for our free newsletter, get our daily podcast, and then, of course, we have a plethora of services that are designed to help investors and people who want to earn more income. So ftmdaily.com.
Great. Well, Jerry, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks, Mo.